Women Move Mountains. That's the theme of this year's International Mountain Day, which is celebrated annually on the 11th of December, which was yesterday. Now, it raises awareness about the significance of mountains to both our life and climate and the threats as well that they face. Yesterday's commemorations highlighted the key role that women play in, among other things, protecting natural resources. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Judy Sikuza. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, and she is a mountaineer herself. She climbs mountains now and again. Judy, good afternoon. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. The theme, I mean, normally when you think of a mountain, you don't think about gender issues or equality issues, you know, it's a geographic feature. But this year, the United Nations saw it fit that the theme would be Women Move Mountains. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan, for having me on for this conversation. Well, I mean, I think we need to look at the history of migration, of men having to go to the cities to work, and that women were the ones left behind in rural areas to think about what livelihood meant in those contexts. So I think there is an untold story about the very powerful role that women have been playing in environmental protection, in economic development, and social cohesion within the spaces of rural areas as well as mountains. And I think that Women Move Mountains in that context, and of course in many more ways, and I'd love to talk more with you about that.
Yes, I mean, it's an important point you're making, that therefore, because of that migration to labor needs, women become like custodians of the local biodiversity, which includes mountains.
Exactly. And I think for me, if we look at the current context, I mean, I'm in Cape Town right now. It's summer. It's my birthday month. So I'm usually very excited about being outside in the sun. It's raining. It's been thunderstorms. And it tells you about the shifts in climate change and the effects of how we as human beings have actually been treating our environment. So there's been this observation I've had since I've started climbing mountains, that women are actually encouraging us as a society to reconnect to Mother Nature, to access that feminine divine. And I think in this constant consumerist world where we're moving 24/7, we go against the rhythm of nature, which is really about helping us to find a sense of compassion, of kindness, of presence, and of reflection. So I do see such an important role that the space of nature, and particularly mountains, can provide to give you perspective about life and to encourage a sense of balance and harmony.
Yeah. What perspective did you get on Kili?
Well, I think at an essence level, it was about gratitude. Gratitude for everything that I actually do already have, but also realizing that as human beings, we limit ourselves in terms of what we think we can do. I only started climbing about a year ago, and the Trek for Mandela initiative was really such a fantastic platform to help encourage me as a new climber, to help us train intensively for 6 months. And that perspective that actually, if I set my mind to it and I was dedicated and followed the program 4 days a week for 6 months, that once I got to the mountain, it was about surrendering all those fears I had within myself, and the community of women that I climbed with carried me up. And I found community, I found gratitude, and I also found a new perspective of the challenges we have in society can be solved if we actually dedicate our time and resources to it.
And women do move mountains. That's the theme. What mountains are you busy moving there at your foundation there?
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Mandela tasked us to try and make sure that the Mandela Rhodes Scholarship Program can be spread out across the African continent. So we're currently in 33 African countries, and our next strategic focus is about how do we make the scholarship and leadership development program available to all talented young leaders from across the continent. And so we're engaging with potential partners. We're celebrating 20 years next year as a foundation, so a very big year. And so that, Dan, is the mountain I'm going going to be heading towards July next year in Mandela Month. And we're obviously very positive that we will find the right people to support us towards our goal.
Yeah, and we know how important education is, particularly in Africa, and we know how disadvantaged many women are, girls and women.
Exactly. I mean, Dan, as an example, in terms of just this idea of how women can step up, one of the most fundamental experiences on being in Kilimanjaro was the woman who led our expedition. Emma Moye, she runs the company that was guiding us up in Kilimanjaro. And she, as a woman, is employing about 20 to 30 people, majority men. But there was one lady who was guiding us, and she was like one of the first to actually be one of the guides. And Emma's trying to open up space and possibilities that more women can serve as guides. And I think what I learned from that was, she's trying to create a space where the mountain can be used as a space for really learning about different cultures, because so many people from different parts of the world come to Kilimanjaro to hike. It's also a space of traditional knowledge sharing, of the healing powers of the natural medicines that are actually available on the mountain, which might have more sustainable benefits than pharmaceutical medicine. So I think mountains and the process of hiking is also about sustainability. It's about how do we preserve our nature that feeds us and sustains us, so that also the children and our grandchildren can also enjoy that peaceful space, but also realize that the women who are based in these rural areas are actually these really powerful, incredible, inspiring people. And I left there after meeting someone like Emma, feeling really motivated in the work that we do as a foundation.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it. The Pope Francis, the Vatican, issued a statement yesterday around International Mountain Day, and he makes a point there that this year's International Mountain Day, which was yesterday, is an opportunity to promote gender equality, and therefore contribute to improving social justice, livelihoods, and resilience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of how the way I understand resilience, and I've got a master's in psychology. Resilience is about an acknowledgement, first of all, that you are going to fall. But what makes you a resilient person is how quickly are you able to rise up again when you fall. And I think, women across different societies and cultures have continued to demonstrate that process of resilience, despite the challenges we face, despite the limitations of, lack of access for education for women, patriarchy, the impact of economic access for women, the ability to still dig deep and get up every day. And I mean, I see it at a very personal level with my mother, who turned 65 this year. And yet, despite the challenges she faces, she's able to get up every day and still fight. And I think I've felt quite inspired looking at the women around me who've demonstrated resilience despite the external constraints upon them.
Okay, you've told us what is the big mountain for you ahead of next year as the Mandela Rhodes Scholarship Program and under your foundation there. But when is the next big mountain you are going to be climbing?
Dan, to be very honest with you, I think it's an internal one for me. I probably have, been, obviously I'm ambitious and I've succeeded quite well as a young person, but I'm wanting to do a little bit more of the inner work. How do I become more compassionate to myself? How do I become more patient? I have a 3.5-year-old daughter who certainly tests my patience in many ways. And how do I begin to, as the mountain teaches you, to actually appreciate the small everyday things? What that process brings up in terms of the next challenge, physically, I love physical activity. I used to be quite active as a young person. I'm pretty open to it. Is it a cycling challenge? Is it another mountain in another continent? I don't know. But I think there's something quite important about just that process of the inner work that I think I'm invited to do in this moment in my life.
Yeah, that might turn out to be the biggest mountain you'd ever have to tackle. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Judy, and sharing some of your insights around International Mountain Day, the significance of it in terms of this year's theme being Women Move Mountains. Now, she's, of course, the CEO of the Mandela Rhodes Foundation. That's Judy Sikuza.